hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand. I am your host. I am so excited to come before you today again with another awesome show. Yeah, and I know I tell you every week that I have the best guest, but today I have the best guest. Absolutely. So, we have a few things that we want to talk about in the beginning because I have so much that I want to talk to my guest about today. And so I don't want to prolong this at all. So if you are ready, I want you to sit back, get yourself together because it's time to speak out loud. Let's go.
You're watching Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand.
About that. See how modest she is, y'all? But let's go. So roasted crickets, I'm like, not eating that.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Every day showing up, even when you don't feel like it.
And now your host, Lynette Jackson.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand. And I am your host. And for some of you who don't know me, I'll introduce myself. I'm an author, I am a speaker, and I am the owner of Roar Media Group. Roar is a digital marketing company that helps its clients speak out loud in the marketplace. I started Roar because there was a need to provide quality graphics at affordable prices. And so we do digital marketing, graphic design, we do video editing, video voiceover, strategic plans, and we do it for small businesses, churches, ministries, leaders, and we would love to do it for you. If you are interested and in getting some information about Roar Media Group, just log on to roarmediagroup.com and schedule a free consultation. All right, so I have to let you guys know, as you know, that this show is being sponsored by Telehelp 24/7. They are our sponsor for the month of May because, as you know, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we just have to do one little thing and then we're going to get to our guest. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Lisa. And because of what was going on inside of my head, I lost my smile a long time ago. Millions of individuals are affected by mental illness each year, yet it's not always easy to talk about. Many people don't know where to begin when seeking help for mental health issues, which is why I logged on to telehelp247.org and began speaking with a therapist who assisted me in settling the things in my head and restoring my smile. Log on to telehelp247.org and get your smile back. Telehelp 24/7. Culturally competent mental health care, meeting you where you are.
All right, thank you so much. So Telehelp, we want you to log on to Telehelp 24/7 if you are having any challenges, if you need to talk to someone. They are culturally competent mental health care company that's meeting you and will meet you where you are. Telehelp247.org. All right, let's get into my show today because I am so excited. I'm just going to tell y'all that I'm fanning a little bit right now because I'm from Philadelphia. Big basketball fan. Yeah, I just got some noisy folks coming by me. But I watched this guy like kill it at UVA with I will tell you a little bit with the Houston Rockets. Oh my God, I watched his career and I'm so honored to have today 3-time college basketball player of the year and NBA Hall of Famer, Mr. Ralph Sampson, to speak out loud today. Hey, Ralph.
Hey there, how are you? How's it going?
I'm good. I am so good. Good to see you.
Great to see you as well.
What's going on? How's things going?
Things are good here in Virginia, and just obviously everybody around the country battling weather, rain one day, cold, hot one day, 95,
Exactly.
days 57. So other than that, it's summer is here. It's good.
Exactly. So we have so many fans that are going to chime in today. I know people are so excited about this interview today. So I always start off asking my guest what I call the four clarity questions. So it's almost kind of weird to ask you this question because people kind of know who you are, but
Okay.
we always ask people, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And Ralph, who do you have the pleasure to serve in your community for?
Okay, so is that all four of them in a row,
That's
right?
all four of them in a row.
I have to go back and remember what the four are. It was pretty quick.
I'll help you out. I'll help you out.
All right, so
So who are you?
give me. I am the son of Ralph Sampson Sr. and Sarah Blakey Sampson, born and raised in Virginia. But without my mom and dad, I wouldn't be much anything. So that's who I always say I am. I have a restaurant here in Charlottesville, Virginia called Ralph Sampson's American Tap Room, which everybody says, "Oh, your name's on the building." I said, "No, my dad's name's on the building." So it's all about my mom and dad with who I am.
Okay, it's all about, okay, great. So, what do you do now? Of course, we know what you did before, but what do you do now? What's going on? What are you doing now?
My goal at this stage of my life and what I do has to have a social impact in anything I do. So I work with the Boys and Girls Club in Charlottesville, Virginia. We just finished raising $21 million for the new Boys and Girls Club facility here.
Wow.
Again, I mentioned the restaurant as well. Entrepreneur, extraordinary. I have a farm I work on as well, trying to develop the legacy for the family. And I take on different projects here and there that has called the impact in the community, but also in the business world as well. We've launched a community or a venture capital fund that I'm still working on. It's taken a long time to get up and running, but we want to invest in minority female businesses as well around the country to get this thing going in the right direction for all the businesses out there. But I stay busy and stay active, and I'm nonstop, but I enjoy what I do.
That's awesome. So let's just get into this interview because I have so much that I want to share and talk with you about. So let's talk to Ralph Sampson, how he grew up. How did you grow up and where did you grow up?
I'm from a small town in Virginia, a place called Harrisonburg, Virginia, where James Madison University is now, a very large university. But we grew up in the neighborhood, and it was not a hood with the neighborhood. I had a lot of cousins and family on every street in the neighborhood. My mother's side of the family were 12 siblings, 9 boys and 3 girls. Some of them moved to Pennsylvania, some of them stayed in Virginia. But we had fun, and I take today where that whole neighborhood is now gentrified, and a lot of the folks either moved on or passed away. So it's totally different now. Mm-hmm. My house that my parents live in, my grandparents on my father's side built that house. Wow. Because their land was taken by the city, and y'all move over here, and then we'll figure out how to give you something else. But I miss those days. I think we grew up really special back then, no matter what it was. But a very small town upbringing, but big heart and big family and friends around me all the time.
So you grew up on a farm.
So
what was that? What was that like?
We didn't grow up on it. We grew up close to a farm. My
okay.
mother's side had the farm, and again, we still have it today. Thank God we have it. But it was fun. It was fun going down there and learn how to work with your uncles, how to grow your own food, how to have family reunions, how to butcher pigs, and the day after Thanksgiving was the tradition in the family as well. So I wouldn't trade that for the world as far as how I grew up.
Wow. So you go to high school. What high school did you go to?
Harrisonburg High School.
Harrisonburg High School. So let's talk about your high school basketball career. So I read something that you really didn't like basketball in the beginning, or that wasn't your first number one sport. Is that correct?
Well, growing up, yeah, we played, you had the parks and recs and you played every sport. So I enjoyed baseball at an early age. And then I gravitated to basketball after, they moved me from pitcher to first base to outfield, which I didn't get any fly balls in left field. So that was boring to me.
Uh-huh.
And basketball was boring because I could only score 16 points a game on an 8-foot basket. And I had 16 points in the first quarter. So it's just a matter of, developing the game of basketball and then gravitating to just that one sport because baseball, I was a pitcher and my arm got a little lax as I grew and I would start hitting people. So that wasn't good. And then moving to outfield, it just was nothing much, like I said, much action. And then my game in basketball started to develop. But every year, the problem was I started to grow a lot every summer, every year, 2 or 3 inches, 4 inches some years, which changed my game of basketball until my growth spurts start to settle down a little bit.
Wow. Okay, so then you leave high school and go to UVA. So I read a little article about something called Ralph's House.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Ralph's House. What is the significance behind Ralph's House?
Well, actually, now it means more now than it ever has been because of the restaurant here in Charlottesville. There's a big mural on the wall at the back of the restaurant of the arena I played in, which is called University Hall, which was Ralph's house. And the way that came about was that one of the previous UVA basketball players named Tommy Hicks, when I was being recruited by University of Virginia and took my official visit, prior to my visit, they go, as you see the building on the screen, they go up in that little circle on the top of the building and paint Ralph's house on the building. And then when I got there and I arrived on my official visit, actually on my mother's birthday weekend, they took me on a helicopter ride over the university so I could see Ralph's house on the building. And so that's how it started. And the significant thing now is because I was the one that pushed the button to implode this building, and now it's basically a football field now for football. But we have a great John Paul Jones Arena right now, which is one of the best arenas in college basketball. So it was antiquated, outdated. I won 3 state championships in this arena as well, and high school, and then obviously played a lot of games there. Only lost a very few games in that building over my career, so it's very special to me. And I tell people all the time, Ralph's house, what's the meaning of that? And the basic meaning is, to me, as a player and as a teammate, as a friend, every sport at University of Virginia was in that building. Our locker room was there, and it was not that big. Our weight room was there, and all sports had a chance to work out in the same weight room, but it wasn't that big either. But the camaraderie we had as University of Virginia student athletes was amazing, and still amazing today. But it's not like that anymore because everybody's on their own out. We got these big old facilities. Every team has their own weight room, own locker room, own field, own everything. And I don't think the athletes have the experiences that we had when we were growing up at University of Virginia, having the camaraderie with athletes that are there with you. And that's one of those life lessons that you learn. You make friends early on, and they become lifetime friends instead of just your teammate or somebody you meet in the hallway. So that building means a lot to me from that perspective.
So you mentioned that you won 2 state championships there, right?
Right, 3.
So three state champions. Okay, so you won 3 state champions there, right? But you officially went to that school. So you've been to the school. So what made you want to take the official tour to go to check out the school? And what other schools were looking at you?
Well, that's a great question. I didn't really need to take an official visit there just because I've been there not only as a player and playing there. One of the stories that comes out is that we are playing Robert E. Lee High School in Stanton, Virginia. Now it's Stanton High School because of all the things going on around the world. But they were our arch rival, and I love to play against them. But we were tied going down into the district, and we had won one game, and they had won one game. And they were going to do a coin flip and say, okay, which one gets the number 1 seed? And my coach basically said, let's don't flip a coin. Let's play a game.
Mm-hmm.
We played in University Hall in Rouse House at that point in time, and we had 10,000 people in watching the high school basketball game.
Wow.
Honestly, we won, and we went on to win the state title. But the significance of that building and the reason I went there was that. But like you said, I had gone there a number of the time, but I needed to take official visit because I took official visit other places,
Mm-hmm.
and see a classroom, see the inner workings of the school, et cetera, other than the arena. And so I did that. And again, the crazy part is they picked me up in a conversion van, drove me over to Showing Field, put me on a helicopter. And I said, I just need to get back for my mother's birthday. And so I got there on a Friday, left on a Sunday morning. I didn't even spend the whole 48 hours there that I could have. And because I wanted to come back for my mother's birthday.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like when you got in the helicopter, you fly over and you see Rouse House there? I mean, what was that like? Was that the decision maker for you to say, okay, I'm going to go here?
Yeah, I'm not easily impressed by stuff like, I mean, helicopter was the one I was fearful of just getting in because you lean to the side or whatever, like you're going to fall out, right? So get me up in the helicopter, take me down, let me go. It was different. It was fun to some extent, but it really wasn't something that I was super excited about. And I see it. I mean, again, you look back now, and the significance of that is really good because it happened. The crazy part about it is the next year in the NCAA rules, it stated basically said there's no extravagant things on the person's official visit, like taking a helicopter over an arena or something like that. So it was fun.
Wow. Okay. All right. So what other schools were looking at you besides UVA? Would you think that you might want to go to? Who was pulling at you?
I mean, I got recruited by thousands of schools.
Who was serious besides UVA?
Who was I serious about?
Yeah.
I mean, I boiled it down to the top 4. The top 4 was UVA, and depending on how you put them, more Kentucky, North Carolina, and Virginia Tech in that order. I mean, I went to Kentucky on a visit, and I would swear I was going to go there. And okay. I would have gone there. And played with 4 or 5 high school All-Americans, and we would have been pretty good and dominant. But my family couldn't see me play every game. They would have to travel and play. It was too far to go. Maybe if I was coming out today, maybe I would have gone there just because of the nature of the world and what we live in today. But back then, it was just something I could not do academically or athletically.
Mm-hmm. So Kentucky, I think you know Clarence Tillman, right?
I do.
He went to Kentucky. Of course, you and I know Gene Banks, who went to Duke. So let's talk about your NBA career. Number 1 draft pick in 1983. How did that make you feel? Like number 1 draft pick.
Well, I mean, I mean, I'm not a bragger or a boaster, but I could have been a number 1 pick coming out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been a number 1 pick in my freshman year. In my freshman year at UVA, we played in the NIT, and we beat Minnesota with Kevin McHale and that crew. If I had came out of school, Kevin McHale would have gone to Boston.
Okay.
Next year, if I came out of school, Isaiah Thomas wouldn't have gone to Detroit, and the next year I came out, James Worthy would have gone to the Lakers. So so impactful that I did. Obviously, would have had a big impression on the NBA today, but it all worked out, I think, for everyone that was playing that college basketball at that point in time. So number 1 pick, I knew kind of that I would be that for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And so it was impressive to be up there with Larry O'Brien, the previous commissioner before David Stern, and to be able to have your jersey up there with the team you're going to play on finally, but also then the fun part, and I get down to it, is the ability to leave New York City in the Felt Forum, and Houston had the number 1 pick and the number 3 pick, and they picked Rodney McCray, a good friend of mine, played against him in college at the University of Louisville. and we take Lear jets side by side down to Houston, and we get there and we go into the room with a crowd of 18,000 people welcoming us to Houston. So that was the fun part. That was the whole fun part of the trip.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know about your career, and for those who do know about your career, let's take them down memory lane and show them who Ralph Sampson really is. Let's watch this.
The Houston Rockets select Ralph Sampson, University of Virginia.
Sampson the trailer. Beautiful. To Sampson. Oh, Sampson.
To the top. They go to Sampson. Wheels on Walton. Gets
it. Push-up man for the fast break style. Sampson looks like he'd be better at our game. 1-2 MVP honor. Sampson. By Paris. Loose ball. Sampson will get an easy bucket and a foul.
That may not excite you, but that excites me. It excites me because, as I mentioned, I'm a big basketball fan. One of your great friends is out here right now, Gene Banks. He says he loves him some Ralph Emmett. But I mean, I grew up watching Gene play. I grew up watching, of course, Dr. J and Daryl Dawkins, from 76ers. And so, that was just like basketball was the real deal back then. And so, you had, a skyhook, you could dunk. Hey, and you had a jumper. I'll tell you who my favorites were besides yourself. Of course, Dr. J with Skyhook himself. And then from Boston, I'm drawing a blank.
Robert Parrish, Danny Ainge, and Dennis Johnson, Kevin McHale, Larry Bird.
Larry Bird. Love me some Larry Bird. So yeah, you had it going on then. You were also Rookie of the Year, your first year in the NBA?
Yes.
Wow, that was so exciting. All right. So here, I want you to go with me here. So you are suiting up, right, in the locker room for the Houston Rockets. Could be the first year, could be the second year. Who is that one person that you have to say, okay, I've got to go out and play this person tonight, and they're going to be tough. They're going to give me some heat, and you have to take a deep breath because you got to really work. And how did you mentally prepare for that game with that person? Who is that one person?
Everybody always asks a similar question, like who's the toughest player you ever played against, which, I can go back and obviously Gene Banks is one of the few only people that ever dunked on me in college for sure. But I always thought that the toughest player to play against was yourself or myself. So, if I didn't get up every night and take care of my body and my eating and all that kind of stuff, at my size and ability, okay, great, a little unique at that era. But you had one of the reasons I didn't come out of college into the NBA because I was playing against grown men, and they didn't play. The rules today are totally different than the rules back then. You got the likes of, as you mentioned earlier, a Daryl Dawkins that could to break backboards.
Break backboards, right?
Julius Erving and Maurice Lucas, I thought, was one of the toughest players. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you had to play against. Artis Gilmore, the strongest human being that I ever met, is still today, Robert Parrish. So he was grown men. And by the came out, they probably would have broken me up a little bit. So the toughest player, I think, is myself, because I had to get up every game and every night to play, because in the NBA that era, every team had all-stars. Every team had somebody who could play the game of basketball at a high level. If they didn't, they were still big and burly and nasty, because they had that attitude that you don't see in today's NBA.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So playing against yourself. So how did you mentally prepare? This is Mental Health Awareness Month, but how did you mentally prepare for that?
I mean, I've been a student of the game for many years. So even today, I mean, when I watch it, I'm watching, seeing kind of the art of the game, and not just the shooting of the game as well. But I watched a lot of videotapes before I got in the league. My whole preseason rookie year with Bill Fitch, we watched videotapes almost every day of different players. I would take videotapes home. I still even have somewhere in a file somewhere old VHS videos of games that were back in the NBA at that point in time. So I watched tendencies. I watched a player. We had scouting reports, and I studied those things religiously, because I wanted to be really, really good when I get out there and play. Mm-hmm. And I want to know who I'm going to play against. And now, today is a lot of switching and a lot of the same talent. You got to switch on this guy, switch on that guy. We didn't have to switch much, because we had size and ability. We all could play somebody that was smaller, but we had what I call an art form of the game, and not just a pick and roll and shoot a 3-pointer from half court. I mean, anybody can really do that. But when you can set a pick and roll, and you can score, and you can draw up a play, and the other team has to defend you, and you either defend that play or you get the basket you want out of the play, I think the game is definitely an art form that way, and not the way it's played today.
Well, we have several people out here that are watching us, and Sean Venable says, this is Aurora is amazing. This is amazing. GT Beard, thanks for being out there again with us. Marsha, thanks for always supporting. Buffy McCoy, how are you? Let's see. Christine Jackson, how you doing? My business coach, Glenn P. Brooks Jr., he says super proud, loves Ralph Sampson. Oh, wow. So we have quite a few folks out here. My business coach says Ralph was that dude. So since we're talking about Ralph being that dude, I just want to ask you guys, if you're really a Ralph Sampson fan, you need to have the Ralph Sampson signature Pumas. And I'm proud of my Ralph Sampson signature Pumas. So if you're a real fan, you got a pair of these. All right. So let's talk about when you retired. You retired in 1995?
Officially, yes.
Officially. Okay. So what did you do after that?
Well, I mean, retirement is always hard for anyone, I think, but especially an athlete that's played the game since they were, a little kid. But when to say when, when your time has come. So I retired. I took basically a year off trying to figure out what I wanted to do at that point in time. And I had my kids I was raising as well, and just was having fun with them for a little while. And my first business deal was into the apparel world with T-shirts, and I didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
I studied it. I went to Peru and understood where these shirts were being made. So I did all my homework there, but still didn't know about licensing and things of that nature. So I just want to give back to University of Virginia. I created a T-shirt for the football games called Record Keepers, and it was wildly successful. It created a scholarship for the university as well. But I didn't know I need a license. But it's called CLC, Collegiate License Company, that if you use their logo, you have to pay them a fee too. So I got slapped on the hands a little bit, but it was a good thing because I learned the business. So I got into licensed apparel. I got into, doing trinkets and big pins for contracts with Major League Baseball team, to getting contracts for that. Been a minority vendor doing coffee cup stuff like that. So I started that way in the business world and learned a lot about it. And then the rest is history after that. After that, I got into more business stuff.
All right. So let's talk about a little bit of your business stuff. So what did you do after that? Like, I understand you have not just one. Did you have 2 restaurants? You have another restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I'd be in the restaurant business, but in Charlottesville, I have the White Spot, and then we have the American Tap House. So we have 2 there and that are in the family. And with my business partner, he's one of the largest. He actually is the largest African-American hospitality company in this country. So he knows that I went to Dart School of Business, went to UVA, a little bit before me. But great guy, Thompson Hospitality. And so we're doing great things and trying to just continue to build these platforms and programs. But we have some sister restaurants in Charlottesville as well that we just excited to have them on board as well. Different food at each one. One of the biggest ones I think is significant because at the Draftman Hotel, we have the Ridley restaurant, which is great food, high-end soul food type stuff. Yeah, you get some greens and some grits and stuff like that to make it work. But Mr. Ridley was the first African-American at UVA. And so named the restaurant after him. So, and then there's the Ridley Scholarship Fund too, associated with his name. So that one is significant in the city of Charlottesville as well.
All right. So we have a question out here from Marcia. First of all, she has a comment. She says, "You are grown man." And the second thing she says, question, if you were fresh out of college today, what team would you prefer to play for?
That's a good question. I mean, I would have to look at the team's organization structure. Right now, I would play for Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks just because I know Mark. I know kind of what he stands for. I think he's a great owner. I would also be first or second would be the Miami Heat with Pat Riley sitting up at the helm, taking control over everything. I think he's one of the best that ever done it. So those would be my top 2 picks.
Your top 2 picks. Okay, Marcia, top 2 picks. You got that. Anybody else have any questions? Put them in the chat and we will ask Ralph. But we do have a comment out here from Gene Banks. Ask Ralph about his relationship with Gene Banks. So that means that he wants you to talk about you guys playing against each other. So you guys played against each other at Duke, right? Mm-hmm. And then also in the NBA.
Correct.
So, all right. So I know what he really probably wants to talk about is the dunk. Do you want to talk about the dunk?
Yeah, I mean, I was a freshman in college, and Gene was upperclassman, and so, I had watched Gene play with Mike Jaminski, Spanarkel, Kenny Denard, all the great teams that they had, and they played against Kentucky, and I mean, all the stuff they had going on, and there was a area that you could watch and see Duke before Coach Krzyzewski got there, right? They had a great team and a great coach before Coach K got there. Mm-hmm. So some of those guys graduated and Gene was still there, and then I got a chance to play against him. But I don't know if we were winning the game or not, but somehow Gene stole the ball or got the ball, and we went down the court, and I'm beside him, and he reaches over and does what he normally would do on anybody and dunks the ball. And rest is history right there. But that's my first introduction to Gene Banks. Although I've heard of Gene before that, obviously Philadelphia, born and raised, and watched him play, upcoming before that in high school. But that's just how it started. And then, over the years, you play against each other in the NBA, or you do things, go to charitable events, you see each other. But you really don't get a chance to spend a lot of time, but you still build a relationship. And that's what I'm talking about when we all go to college and life after basketball. But since then, it's been a number of years now that we've been able to do these things and get back to it. It's been good, but it's kind of crazy how things work out and how we get things done. But Gene Banks is a favorite friend of mine and a favorite player in my career. So we built that. We've done some stuff together over the years with kids around the country. And, he's a special guy. I mean, he knows my sisters. I don't know what else to say about
He's smiling. I bet he's like, yeah. He's smiling now because he does love you. And as I said, growing up, watching him play, watching you play, and I really just cut my teeth really watching, great basketball from going to high school with him. And so we have this little running joke. So I went to all of his games, and it wasn't because I was a fan, but I was a fan of my basketball team. But I performed at all of the halftime shows. So I was in the color guards. And so we went to every game, all of the championships at Palestria. And actually I dated Clarence Tillman. So that was my first boyfriend in high school, was Clarence Tillman. So
Okay, yeah.
I knew those guys as the BT Express. And yeah, that's my extent with Gene. And of course, he introduced me to you because he has a podcast and he interviewed you on the podcast, and I produced that podcast for him. And so that's how I got to meet you. And I have been fangirling ever since, because how often do you get to meet one of their greatest basketball players that ever played the game? And you would never say that, but I can say that.
Okay.
Because you're just very humble, and you don't brag on yourself. But, today it's an opportunity for me to brag on you. So let's talk about what happened on November 22nd, 2011. That was a great day for you, wasn't it? Do you remember what that day was like?
I have
what
no
it
idea.
was?
You looked it up. I have no clue.
I did. I looked it up. And so we're going to find out what happened on that day.
There's been a trade. Coach Nelson said I could buy 2 of his minutes. So I appreciate his minutes, but I'll give them back to him later on. But when I got this call to be inducted and enshrined in this Hall of Fame, I was at my parents' house. Me and my sisters were there. And, I got the call a couple times before that, didn't make it. So I was just hanging out on a Wednesday and not knowing that you're supposed to be somewhere they're gonna call you on that day, and I wasn't around. So they left a voicemail message, and I called them the next day, and they said, you've been inducted for enshrinement or selected for enshrinement into the Hall of Fame. So I kind of stopped in my tracks and told my mom and dad, get ready to travel, and you got an event to go to in September. So it's kind of very surreal. Didn't know what to expect. Been watching this thing on TV every year with all the greats that play this game, and words can't really describe how I feel or how I appreciate being beside all the greats that played this game in this Hall of Fame. My journey, my mission, basically, to play the game of basketball. I didn't really love basketball when I was younger. I loved baseball. And I learned how to value the game of basketball. I put a high value on the game. And once I did that, because we had my high school coaches here, I started out playing on an 8-foot basket, and you could only score 16 points. 6'4". 16 points came easy in the first quarter. And then you couldn't score anymore. So I learned how to rebound. I learned how to block shots, and I learned how to dribble at a very early age.
Wow, there's so much in that speech, but I think that is really awesome. But I want you to talk about the people who are on that stage with you. So you have Kareem, you have Dr. J, Charles Barkley on that stage, and then there are 2 other very handsome gentlemen on that stage. Tell us about who they are.
Well, when you get inducted to the Hall of Fame, you have to be brought into the Hall of Fame by a previous Hall of Famer.
Oh, okay.
And so my top 4 people that I wanted up there, first was Bill Russell, but he was having some issues. He could not make it. Obviously, the big man, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that I idolized and, tried to do a sky hook and end up getting to play against him as well. Then everybody wanted Julius Erving because he was a doctor, and he was the first, one of the first few people that, you talk about Kobe, LeBron, and all these other clowns, basically. Julius, Elgin Bell, and Spencer Haywood, and Connie Hawkins did all those type of things that those guys are doing even today. So Julius is the doctor and will forever be the main guy.
Yeah.
And then Charles and I grew a relationship over a period of time. I was a year or so before Charles, and I played an exhibition game with him, and I ran him up and down the court and dunked on him a few times, and we were friends ever since. So Charles was very special for me, just to have him up there and then build that relationship, which we have to even today up there. The other two are my sons, and I wanted to let them have that experience about what the Hall of Fame is all about, stand up with me. And so I brought them up as well for that night and that occasion. My daughters were in the audience, some family members were in the audience, my high school coach, my college coach was in the audience as well. But it's very surreal for me to have my son stand with me as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So you said something in that speech about loving baseball and then having to work and learn in basketball. So you talked about rebounding, blocking, and dribbling that you had to kind of like learn to do. So how does those three things, maybe two of those three, kind of transfer today in business? A lot of times we have to pivot, we have to refocus, we have to do some things in business, but just talk about what rebounding and blocking how is it associated with business, and how do you look at it as being connected to business in business today?
Well, I just give you an example about the restaurant. So one, you can be a one-person business and you have to do everything. But even in a group business or a team, like a restaurant, we have, a number of people there. So my motto is it takes teamwork to make a dream work. Even if you are in the business by yourself, who's on your team, the banker, the accountant, you got to make sure you can communicate with your team members so that you can be effective in what you do. And accounting. So who's on your team to build that business individually? And then in a restaurant, I got a bigger team. I have the hostesses. I have the servers. I have the bar staff. I have the kitchen staff. I have the general manager. So I have a big sign on the back of the kitchen wall, actually going into the dining area, where it says it takes teamwork to make a dream work. And I want everybody to touch that before they hit the floor. And so we have a great team there, but I build it with the same principles as basketball. You gotta be a good teammate, be a good steward of the team. I learned this from also growing up on the farm and having been around the farm with my uncles. Hard work. I ask people all the time, and sometimes I do it purposely. If you have a straw or a piece of paper on the ground in the restaurant, let's see who's going to pick that up first or go get that done, because most people are going to walk over it, right? And I'm not going to pick that up, especially today's world with pandemic and that stuff. I'm not going to pick that thing up. So you have to watch out who's going to do that, and the cream rises to the top. And the people that are on time, or stay consistent, get bonuses and get money. At certain levels, the people that walk in there with, not want to perform, or, I've had people in the restaurant come and not ready to work and come intoxicated. So we got to let them go home, or smelling like maybe marijuana, which, okay, it's great today. You can do that, but don't come in my place smelling like that, because it's representing myself.
Right.
So we build that camaraderie, just like the teammates I played against and played with. In my basketball career. So that's how I transitioned from sports to basketball, but I still do the teamwork basketball stuff in my daily life, in my businesses, or even family as well.
So that's really good. That's really good. And I really want to talk a little bit about boundaries a little bit as well. So I have a good friend who wrote a book, a business book, and he uses a lot of terms in basketball. And I just want to read a little bit of something that he wrote, just so that you can maybe weigh in on this. It's about boundaries. He says, the 90 by 45 basketball court is all about timelines. You have to learn to be at a certain place on the floor in a significant amount of time. Your position will set the conditions of your opportunity. You have to get to the place and function in a space at an allotted time. The boundaries allow you to be proficient in the place where you are to perform. Weigh in a little bit about that. Because it's like, you talking about the 90 by 45 court, And I mean, it's a lot of life lessons there. So what's your thoughts on that? I thought this was really interesting.
Well, the funny part, he must be playing on a high school court because it's 90 by 50, 95 by 50. But anyway, I mean, anybody can take lessons from their experience of watching a game or playing a game or writing about it, whatever. I mean, so whoever wrote that had those experiences with their own view of the game of basketball or life.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, basketball, I think, one of the greatest games that's ever been invented because, you know, you can watch today. I mean, I can watch the game today with Steph Curry and those guys and still learn something about basketball that equates to life.
Yeah.
And so you never stop learning in that perspective. It's always ever changing. But the fundamentals of what you learn at a young age from your high school coach, a mentor, a teacher, a parent, an uncle or aunt, family or friends, you take all those things and put in this pot and you stir it up and you become yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, but you got to watch what you put in that pot because some of that stuff you might not want.
Okay.
So you got to watch that whole situation where, you know, you want, you know, whatever you're cooking to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And you want people to come back and get more.
Yeah.
So when I played basketball, I wanted to be good. I
Okay.
mean, I've just left the gym not too long ago, and you know I'm in there running and jumping and dunking, you know, at this stage of my life, and people are like, "Why are you doing that?" Because I can, because I want to, because I
That's
have a
right.
coach. And I mean, I'm working out twice a day now. My mindset still is I still think I think I can play. My left knee tells me I can't. So you have to understand that as well. But the mind is stronger than the body in some situation. But the body will shut you down when you can't do what you want to do. And I have to understand that as well. But then I take that over into the business world. So I want to be out there in the business world where I can walk around and still look good and still be in shape instead of being, you know, I tell people, and Gene knows this as well. And Gene is still in great shape. Why would I get heavy and, you know, and get out of shape after all those years of working out?
Mm-hmm.
And now work out and take care of myself. So I try to do the best I can with that. And you know, and then I have unique because my DNA with my parents, we all are fairly thin. I don't have a big overweight problem. I have the problem with gaining weight. So I have to maintain that physicalness and gaining weight, make sure I do that. Because as you get older and you stop, you know, gaining weight, then you be skin and bones. And I don't want to be that way when I'm, you know, as old as ever I'm going to get with God's gift. But I want to stay in great shape mentally and physically, you know, all my life so I can do what God put me here to do on this earth.
So you're working out twice a day?
Right now, yeah.
Right now? And you're playing basketball?
I'm back to shooting and running a little bit. And, you know, I want to see if I can dunk again at this age. And, you know, yeah.
Well, I mean, you're just 30, so, you know, I think
Exactly.
you can make that happen.
I wish I was 30. I get a new contract out there that they get today. It'd be great.
I know that's right. So let me ask you this question. Who motivates you?
I mean, you know, it started with my parents. And when my mother and them would always in a younger age, like, you know, I played the piano when I was younger, and my mother would say, the teacher would say, Mrs. Sampson, your son's hands are too big for the piano because he hitting two notes at the same time with one finger. And my mother would say, no, I pay for these lessons. Basically, he got to finish taking these lessons. And so, you know, even today, I can only play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano, so that's all I can do. But my mother is, she motivates everybody in our family. She's 83.
Wow.
And, you know, I saw her the other day, she's cutting her grass twice a week. She's painting her house. She's doing all kinds of stuff. And she's in great shape. She walks 3 miles a day. She works out twice a day. She eats right. She sleeps right. And she tells us what to do still. Wish she would ever do that until God takes it away from me. Hopefully that's in many, many more years to come. But she's definitely our motivation. And she's always been that way. And my father is that way as well.
Wow. So I heard a story, and I want you to share this story about your dad where he had some challenges with cancer, right? So tell us about that story, because I think it was a really unique story about him singing. So are you all musically inclined? I mean, I didn't know you played the piano.
I don't play piano, but I played one song as that. 3 fingers.
What song was that?
Mary Had a Little Lamb. That's it.
Mary Had a Little Lamb. But tell me about your dad.
Well, the story you're referring to is it's a long story, but I'll cut it down a little bit. My dad ended up with some hernias and some prostate and some lung issues as well. And when we got to the one of the first hernias we fixed, he fell out in my arms, and I was putting him to bed and I know he had a heart attack, seizure, stroke. So we called the ambulance and picked him up, take him to the local hospital in Harrisonburg. The next morning, they did some tests and said basically we see something in his lung because they did X-ray the previous year when he had pneumonia, and they said, well, there's something spot on his lung. So okay, great. The doctor consulted with us and said he had we need to do something because he has cancer, and we need to do something with him. I said, how you can tell it from an X-ray? You got to do a biopsy of that first, because I'm educated a little bit and know some stuff about the healthcare system. So then I went to work on him. I took him to University of Virginia, best hospital in the country, and the doctors had a plan. And 2 weeks later, we had the biopsy done, and the doctor goes in and tells my dad, because my dad loved to sing in church, and he tells him that, I got to do this biopsy, I got to go down your throat, and I may hit your vocal cords, whatever. My dad said, you can't mess with my vocal cords because I sing in church all the time. And so the doctor said he would be very careful. So imagine putting him out there, putting him out, and he gets up, he wakes up, I'm there with him, and he arises, and we prep him, we get ready to leave. And he goes there, I said, I want to stop over here. I said, where you want to stop? I want to stop at the nurse's station. And when he stopped at the nurse's station, he starts to sing the Lord's Prayer.
Wow.
So I knew at that point in time he would be really good, because I got to get him through this process, which we did. But he sings the Lord's Prayer coming out of a biopsy of his lung. And obviously we got him healthy. It's been 10 years now, cancer-free.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And he's older. Yeah, pandemic hurt him more than the cancer stuff.
Is that right?
Because he had to sit at home and be quiet. But okay. He's still with us, and he's doing really, really well.
So you have a foundation that actually works with cancer patients and things. Tell us about the foundation.
Well, shortly after that, we created the Sampson Family Foundation and really focused on a couple of different things. One initiative is cancer research for University of Virginia and Centaur RMH Hospital in Harrisonburg. We raised about $375,000, almost $400,000 over the last number of years for that, and basically for cancer research. We did actually a Family Feud show with Steve Harvey a number of years ago, and we ended up beating Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and winning $25,000 for University of Virginia. So stuff like that we're interested in. We have a scholarship at Virginia State in my mother's name, Sarah Sampson Scholar Program, where we are, raising money for that as well now. And then we take on certain initiatives, that we take on. One was I wanted my high school basketball court to be named after my basketball coach. So it's a Roger Berge Court. I didn't want my name to be on it because I thought he was, more special than myself to make that happen. So we take on that initiative. Previous years, we've taken on the food bank initiatives over the last number of years because I live in the agricultural climate in Virginia, where we're probably one of the largest poultry producers in the country. But between that and I was like, okay, two things sparked my interest. One, we're in the agricultural climate, but kids going to school hungry. That didn't. And so we try to resolve some of that issue in our schools. But then also food banks were not having enough food because of people in the population growing, et cetera. So we have farmers that plant, acres of potatoes, and the food bank bring people and they harvest those and take those potatoes to the food bank. So we try to supply stuff with that because there's a lot of food that's wasted on farms. That it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look. That's what we got to do something with it. But sell it to the food bank, because if everybody knows that food bank's buying outdated food from grocery stores anyway.
Yep.
And so we got people eating food that expired. So now the healthcare issue is going to be totally different. And so it's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. So we try to stave some of that off with what we can. We take on those initiatives, and we try to have fun with it.
Awesome. So you're doing that. You have a podcast. Talk about the podcast, and when can people hear your podcast?
Yeah, we have a radio show that's now in about 7 states. It's airs on the weekend, about 8 cities in Virginia. And then every Tuesday it goes into the podcast. They can get on any podcast networks out there, from Spotify to Stitcher to Believe, Amazon and Apple and all that. So we all there as well. But, Gene's been on that as well, as you know. And we talk some basketball, but I really want to, drill down into the why it's called center court is, what centers the person, how do they get where they are, but, and to also tell some of the stories that we talk about all the time about, just the personalities and the friendships and the stuff that we do every day. So that's been fun for me. We just did our 100th show about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, congrats.
And so we're trying to grow that more and more, obviously, to make that more vibrant, but it's been fun to do.
So I'm putting up the website for your tap room. Now, I saw a lot of posts out on Instagram. So what was that day, that weekend, because you had like an entire weekend. What was that like? How was that for you, your family, to just own this nice restaurant? And what's the most favorite thing on the menu that you like?
Well, the weekend was special because one, it should have opened months before. November 9th was kind of the scheduled opening date right before the college basketball season. And it got pushed back due to the pandemic and supply chain and all that kind of stuff. So every month people were like, when is it going to open? Oh, it'll open in December. Well, it didn't open in December. Oh, it's going to open in January. So I stopped telling people it's going to be open. And then we saw the light from a marketing perspective that it opened April 8th, 9th, and 10th, which was University of Virginia Black Alumni Weekend. So it all worked out really well with that. And so that Friday we opened. We had a ceremony out front of the building with about 250 people out front. We had the cheerleaders, the basketball team, the band. We had people out there just to kind of make it exciting. We had some car dealerships with cars out there, which was fun. And so that happened, and we all got a chance to speak. Warren Thompson spoke. I spoke. The mayor of Charlottesville spoke. Other people spoke. And for me, it was a surreal moment because I had a couple of people there. I had one of my college roommates that played football at UVA, and fifth year senior played basketball, which is a guy named Lewis Collins. He's a minister now in Richmond, Virginia. Really, really special guy. I had Othell Wilson on the phone with me as well, back in the backdrop with Ricky Stokes. Ricky Stokes was there, played with me. Bobby Stokes, his brother that played at UVA, was a doctor in University of Virginia right now. Which was a great family, Jim Miller. So we had great people there that were there. Then I had a chance to have Tony Elliott, the University of Virginia new football coach that I think will be the best football coach in the University of Virginia football history. So it was fun to do that. And then I got to tell people the story of why I kind of wanted to do a restaurant. And the restaurant, because I could have done restaurants. I did restaurants before where there was franchises. But this one is obviously special because it's in Charlottesville, and the timing was right, the situation was right for me. And what we're doing is taking athletes that are student athletes that are alumni, making them an ambassador, a member of the restaurant. They pay $100 a year, and we'll give them all the perks that we can give them to make this work. But also, we're taking athletes now that are between a junior and a senior, and they want to be in the hospitality world. There's a lot of moving parts in the restaurant, obviously, that everyone knows. Some people know, some people don't. But I mean, from Uber Eats to salt and pepper, it's just kind of crazy. But we'll take one of those athletes, take them up to our corporate office for internship for the summer and learn about the restaurant business. And then hopefully, if they want to do more of that, we'll have a job for them somewhere, either with our companies or in the hospitality world at that time. Because all the other pieces, we got Xfinity and Best Buy. We got all these people that are partners. From TVs to food, partners. So they may be able to hire one of these young men or women after they graduate from University of Virginia.
All right. So what's the most favorite thing on their menu that you love?
Obviously, over about a 3-month period of time, I taste tested everything except for anything that has shellfish in it. Okay. So that was my downfall with that because I'm allergic to that. But we created the Tony Bennett steak, which I like steaks. And then the Terry Holland meatloaf, which is one of the favorite recipes there. But those two are my favorite. So
that's what you would recommend if someone was to be in the Charlottesville area to come over to the American Tap?
Absolutely. If you're hungry. I mean, it's a big portion, so you better be hungry to get there because you probably end up taking some home with you. But it's definitely a special place. The atmosphere is great. TVs are massive, and the mirror on the wall is big time for me. I got a picture of myself and Patrick Ewing with Game of Thrones in the back. So
Yeah.
it's a fun place to be. It turned out well.
So as we close, this podcast is called Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand. And you have really helped us to learn a little bit more about the great Ralph Sampson and the story behind your brand. I learned some new things. But before we go, as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, give us a lesson learned in business that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started out?
I mean, you go through college, you go through certain situations, but finally, one of the best things I did when I was here in Charlottesville is because I knew some people, and I found a guy that was in the restaurant world in Charlottesville, and I knew everything from, just like me analyzing the game. I wanted to know every restaurant in Charlottesville. I went and taste tested a lot of them.
Okay.
But having a mentor somewhere out there that kind of knows the things you don't know. And there was a guy I ended up meeting that, came by and said, okay, look at this, look at that. But I wish I'd have engaged into that mentor more. Just because obviously his time, he was retired from it and it was kind of tired of the restaurant world. But engage with mentors that know a little bit more than I did, because you can be educated, all you want by going to college or whatever. But when you got practical experience from somebody that's been through that war that you get ready to embark upon, they can give you some of the pitfalls of the business and also the successes, because they stayed in it for a lot of years. So it must have been pretty good for them. So they can tell you all the negative stuff you want, but if they stayed in over 5 years, it must have been pretty good. So I learned that lesson quickly years ago, but it's more prevalent now, because when you do something that you're normally not used to doing, especially in the restaurant world, you have to have good people around you. And I learn something every day I go in the building, and I'm eager to learn about every moving part. I was there under construction a lot of times, and now you can see why we did this, why we did that.
Okay.
Before, you're like, why are you doing that? I mean, what's the reason for that? And I didn't know at that point in time. But now when you see a finished product, you really don't know what's behind those walls of the restaurant that makes that thing operate, right? So, and the last part about this is, the great thing about it is, once you go through that, it's like Gene knows this well. Once you go through training camp and you get your systems down and your plays down, you still have to tweak them in any game and have a plan B or plan C. As long as you are flexible in that plan, you're not so rigid. The best teams out there can make adjustments during the course of a game.
Right.
And, this player's getting hot. We need to call a timeout, or whatever you need to do, go to halftime, make adjustments. And if you can do that, then you'll be very successful in what you do.
Okay. Last question, or actually not even a question. It's just asking you to give a statement, because a lot of people that watch this podcast are business owners, entrepreneurs, ministry leaders in their community. What would you say to someone who is feeling like they want to give up, that they feel like it's too tough for them? Give them some words of encouragement in business to motivate them to keep going.
Well, again, I mean, I always refer back to, we know when your game is off, your jump shot is not quite working, you're not quite feeling, good that day or for a couple of days, you have to get away from it. You have to take, that's when your body and the mind's going to take a break.
Okay.
You find a way to, if it just, my breaks are going to the farm and smelling the grass and cutting grass.
Wow.
Get away from everybody, getting on the tractor and feeling my grandfather's voice or my uncle's voice about the work ethic that I had with them. And you can get this done, but you got to refresh. And then you come back with a vengeance, but you can't come back so fast and strong that you crash again in 2 days. You got to come back smartly. You got to think about it, digest it. And then, and then you got to also look who's on your team. Friends, who's on your team that's going to, be there to pat you on the back, but who's there on the team that will be able to kick you in the butt as well. And then say, okay, this is what you need to get done. So hit refresh and, really take a look at and just take a pause for the cause and come back strong the next day.
So step away, find out who's on your team, and hit refresh. Those are some of the great, these would be things that people would say are great self-care tips today. And it's sometimes you can't stay in the game all the time. Just like you said in basketball, when a team member is getting too hot or they're being too overworked, you got to pull them back so that they can refresh and, catch their breath. And I have to do that myself. For me, it is swimming. Sometimes I'm sitting at my desk working on projects for a long period of time. And it's just like, I can't think anymore. I need to go. I call it getting clear. So I'll go swim. I walk 3 miles a day. So I'll go walk. I walked this morning. And it's just really, you hear things differently. You see things differently. And so I guess that's equivalent to you getting on the tractor and listening to your ancestors chat with you and kind of like filling up your spirit. Well, Ralph, I just want you to know that this has been such an amazing opportunity for me to interview you, but for all of the audience of Speak Out Loud. I know they enjoyed it. I mean, there's just, I can't even go through all of the comments that are out here. Can you have Ralph back on when he at his VC firm for women launches? Okay, so can you come back? And that's one of the comments that's out here. So it's just, tons of comments that are out here for people who are just so excited about having you speak out loud today. I am so excited that I know you, and I have been truly blessed today listening to your story. And you are one of the most humble people I have ever met. To be, just by your name, you just put Ralph up there. You're Ralph Sampson. Okay, do you know who you are?
Hey, I just put a name up there. You said just log on, put the name in there. That's about it.
You are Ralph Sampson, and you just I put Ralph there, and that speaks volumes. And so you may not want to toot your horn, but I will toot your horn. You are one of the greatest people that I have ever met and known. And I'm just honored that you gave a little girl, a little break today and graced her on her podcast to talk about the story behind your brand. And I say thank you so much. My audience thanks you. And I would love to have you come back. And when you are ready to get the whole process of the initiative for, Black entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, let us know, because I am one.
All right, we'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ralph, for joining us. Anything you want to say before we leave?
No, hello, everybody. Have a good evening. And it'll be fun. We'll come back soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Ralph. All right, guys, we were just talking to the great Ralph Sampson. What a beautiful man he is, a great interview. And I am so excited that he graced us with his presence today. And so just remember that our show is airing every Tuesday live on Facebook and YouTube, and on KBCN TV on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Remember that God loves you. I love you. But most importantly, learn to love yourself. Bye for now.
You've been watching Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand, with your host, Lynette Jackson. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. And until next week, don't forget to use your voice to speak out loud.